welcome back to Star Flag Media. Today is May the 5th, 2023. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone out there. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of things, movie related and gaming related, all in one, as well as Nintendo being forced to testify in Microsoft's Activision case after all. Let's start off with Mortal Kombat. So, Mortal Kombat, the movie, was pretty successful in the box office, and it looks like the sequel may have found its Johnny Cage. It looks to be starting to shoot in June of this year, and it sounds like it's going to be actor Carl Urban, famous from The Boys and Lord of the Rings, of course. So, it looks like IGN has verified this with The Wrap and its own sources, and it sounds like Urban is in final talks to play the movie star and martial artist Johnny Cage. Johnny wasn't present in the first movie. He was hinted, with posters and things like that in the film's final scene. And then the protagonist, Cole Young, heading to Los Angeles to find a series staple. Johnny's absence in the first film was noticed by longtime fans. But director Simon McCoy told Variety News that they opted not to include him because he's such a big personality and that he would have derailed the story and become the center of attention. We have Urban now, who's a pretty big actor and has done pretty prominent roles. And I think he's a pretty good fit for Johnny Cage, if you ask me. I think, he's got the acting chops and if he can really hone in that, what am I looking for here? That cockiness that Johnny Cage has, I think that he could be pretty successful at the role. The article here continues. It says Urban has been pretty prominent in a lot of franchise roles. He's appeared in the aforementioned The Boys, Lord of the Rings, as well as Star Trek movies, Thor Ragnarok. He's also had some history in video game adaptations, having played Doom Guy in the 2005 Doom movie. If this is going to be the new Johnny Cage, I'm all for it. I think it's a good fit. Definitely interested to see what they do with the new Mortal Kombat film. I enjoyed the last one. I thought it was a good popcorn movie. I didn't think it was terrible, and it certainly was better than Annihilation, which was just god awful. Still hold the original Mortal Kombat in the 90s as my favorite, even with all the campiness and stuff like that. To me, it still holds up. It's still a really fun film, and they didn't try to go extreme with any kind of big budget stuff. The sequel went with this terrible animalities and clay animations, but I think that the second one of the modern take is going to be pretty good, since the first one was a decent movie in itself. Next up in the movie news is we're just going to keep talking about this movie as long as it continues to break records. The Super Mario Brothers movie is now the second highest grossing animated movie ever in the United States. So this comes from our friends over at Go Nintendo. It says, as of today, the Super Mario Brothers movie has crossed the $500 million mark in North America alone. This makes it the fourth film to reach $500 million domestically in the pandemic era, coming in behind Spider-Man No Way Home, that finished at $814.1 million, Top Gun, which finished at $718 million, and Avatar: The Way of Water, which finished at $683 million. More importantly, this is the first Illumination film and Universal animated movie ever to surpass $500 million, not adjusted for inflation. The Super Mario Brothers movie is also the second highest grossing animated film of all time domestically, and the third biggest Universal release of all time, only coming behind Jurassic World and E.T. I mean, if that isn't just amazing what that movie has done, for it being now considered low budget compared to what it brought in the box office. The Mario franchise as a whole is just a money printer. Nintendo now needs to take a real serious look at their franchises and go, which one can we make to expand our brands, right? So it's very clear Super Mario Brothers 2 is going to be a thing. There's no question about this. I guarantee you right now, Illumination is at the drawing board to make sure that in 1.5 to 2 years we get another Mario movie. But other studios have now probably are jumping at the gun at knocking on Nintendo's door. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that the next big hit for them could be something family oriented as well if they continue to go that route. Everybody, of course, wants to see a Legend of Zelda movie, and everybody, of course, is thinking Metroid and making a gritty space movie. But let's be real, right? If they're looking at blockbuster, huge, family-oriented films like this, I think the next big thing that they're gonna hit with is going to be Kirby. I might be completely left, in the dark on this one. I might be completely wrong. But after seeing the success with Mario, you have to look at all their franchises as a whole. They've already lumped Donkey Kong in there with Mario, and unless they're going to expand on that universe and bring in other Mario Kart type characters into the Mario franchise, how can they spin that off? How can they make another movie? Sure, they can go a Donkey Kong movie on its own, but I think at this point Kirby is probably going to be the next big thing, and they should stick with CG, just like they did with the Mario movie. It could be a Pixar like film, and I think Kirby could be very successful for them in the box office as well. Let me know what you guys think about that opinion. And then finally, we are moving on to the legal news. We are now ordered to testify in Microsoft and Activision's case. Thank you for that follow. And yeah, so Nintendo has been ordered by the FTC law judge to testify in the ongoing Microsoft Activision merger lawsuit. The FTC law judge D. Michael Chappell issued the order before denying Nintendo's motion to withdraw from the subpoena too. So the judge ruled that Nintendo's executive Steven Singer must testify before the FTC's compliant counsel in the agency's lawsuit against Microsoft Activision acquisition. The FTC lawsuit is a whole separate thing compared to what recently was filed in CMA for the European Union. That ruling blocked the merger in the United Kingdom last week. Microsoft's attempt to purchase Activision Blizzard was blocked by the UK. However, the FTC is also gunning for the company, and it has filed a full lawsuit against Microsoft claiming the acquisition is unlawful. Of course, Microsoft now needs to prove that this isn't the case. Steve Singer works at Nintendo as their vice president of publishers and developer relations. So Singer was directly involved with Microsoft's so-called, 10-year deal with Nintendo to bring that Call of Duty franchise to Nintendo platforms for the next decade. Whether that be on Switch, probably not, since the Switch is, probably on its swan song by now. But it will probably come to the next system. So the FTC really wants to know what kind of a deal this really is. Is it a cloud-based deal, or is this really going to be something that is going to be on Nintendo hardware? The FTC served Singer with this subpoena to appear in a case trial, and he would have to provide more information on the 10-year deal, the technicalities of the deals, none of the things that have been made public. So, of course, Nintendo didn't really like that idea. A lot of these are company and trade secrets, and of course, they don't want to have their dealings put out there for everyone to capitalize on. Of course, the other companies would be looking at that, going, "Hey, Microsoft got this sweetheart deal, or we pay way more," and then it could really hurt them financially. So, if anything of this gets out, it'll probably be heavily redacted, and who knows what we'll do next with information. So, Nintendo tried to appeal that decision. They didn't want to go to court. Judge struck that down and said, "This isn't going to happen. You have to come to court." So the FTC wants to have the deposition completed by May 8th, which is only 3 days from today. It's going to be interesting to see where the FTC's case goes against Microsoft. The council has legally demanded all the details regarding Microsoft's 10-year deal with Nvidia as well, Nintendo, and other cloud-based gaming platforms. The company announced a handful for them in the past weeks, but didn't provide any context into what the licensing deals entail. it's becoming a mess for Microsoft. This Activision Blizzard deal is looking really difficult for them to finalize at this point, especially after the CMA blocked it in the UK. The FTC could just go based off of that completely and not even take the argument into consideration. So the only thing that could happen from this can be beneficial for Microsoft if Nintendo actually complies and gives up this information, and it can help Microsoft even if it hurts Nintendo in the long run. This 10-year deal for Call of Duty is basically the end all be all of this deal. If it doesn't seem like it's going to be something that the FTC thinks is a fair competitor's deal for that one game, forget the rest of Activision Blizzard's franchises, then they're probably going to block this merger. And at the very beginning, I really believed this merger was going to happen. Uh, which brings me to our final point here for Microsoft. It seems like it's been a bad overall month, right? So we've got the Activision Blizzard deal just kind of crumbling underneath itself. We've got how Redfall launched. Redfall launched terribly with, subpar performance and glitches. And, again, reviews haven't been hot for it, and gamers have not been happy. And now we have Starfield coming out, and people are concerned. Phil Spencer then went on a podcast, had an interview, and famously, just recently, said that Microsoft cannot compete with Nintendo and Sony when it comes to making their platform succeed or be number one. And it's interesting that he would say that. Of course, the fanboys are just eating this up and taking it out of context. I know that he probably meant it in a way where now they're thinking about Game Pass going forward. But in reality, he really believes that even if you put out the best AAA titles, they just can't compete with Nintendo's brand and Sony's brand. Microsoft's been out for 20 years now with the Xbox. I think they have a very dedicated following. But as mentioned before, Microsoft is non-existent in Japan. And their fan base is here in the United States and growing in the UK and other places in the world. But Japan is non-existent. They have not had a foothold there ever. And Microsoft has never won a console generation. They've lost every single console generation, and it's been Sony and Nintendo flipping back and forth, winning each generation. The first one, PlayStation 2. The second one, the Wii. The third one, we had the PS4, and now this generation we have the Switch just, eating everybody's lunch with Sony quickly catching up behind them. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think the FTC ruling is going to go Microsoft's way? Do you think Phil Spencer is right that they cannot compete with Nintendo to their platforms and they're just going to keep doing what they're doing and dedicate themselves to Game Pass and their audience? And what do you guys think about the Super Mario Brothers movie being the second highest grossing animated movie of all time in the United States? And finally, your thoughts on Urban becoming the new Johnny Cage. Were you guys all hoping that The Miz from WWE was going to be Johnny Cage? Let me know in the comments. And, of course, make sure to follow me, please, at twitch.tv/starflagmedia. And you can find me on YouTube at starflagmedia and on twitter.com/starflagmedia. As always, thank you for coming.